Well, it was a somber evening on Monday following the attack on the train conveying passengers from Abuja to Kaduna. You will recall that the tracks were bombed on Monday, and people were killed, people were injured, people were abducted. And you begin to wonder what is going on. If you juxtapose this beside the earlier attack, I think it was last weekend, when the airport in Kaduna as well was attacked and the plane was prevented from taking off. Questions begin to just play on your mind. So, are our security agents overwhelmed by all this that's going on? Well, we'll be asking the experts this morning, and we have two of them with us, security experts. Otumba Comrade Oladende Ario is here with us in our studio in Lagos. Good morning.
Good morning, my sister.
Comrade. And Pastor Laddie Thompson joins us via Zoom from Canada. Hello, Pastor Laddie. When are you coming back?
Well, I complete my assignment here. I'll be back shortly. But it's lovely to hear you.
Thank you very much for joining us. So, Comrade, what do you think this is all about? Airport, rail tracks, and you can't even venture going by road. What do you think all this focus on transportation is all about?
Well, Kaduna used to represent the home of our military prowess. We had the NDA there, we had the mechanized division there, several other security-related organizations were in Kaduna. And then when you think of Kaduna in the 60s, 70s, 80s, it was the safest place you could be. But suddenly, the narrative started changing to the point that when I heard on Sunday that the airport was attacked, I wasn't surprised, because NDA, our premier military training institution, was so violated last year. So if that could happen, and then I don't think there's anybody that is serving term now for that. There was no foreclosure, no conclusion. So, if anything that happens again, I won't be surprised. It's the same crowd that's still on the prowl. Now, Sunday happened, planes were stopped from flying. And of course, from landing too. And then on Monday, the Abuja-Kaduna rail line has become an easy pick for these criminals. The Monday event wasn't the first one. We've had several. And the thinking was that, okay, since the road was no longer safe, they could be going via the train. But repeatedly, we've experienced attacks on the train.
Well, Pastor Thompson, you've been talking about this for years. I'm almost certain that there is a perspective to this issue that we're not looking at yet.
I think you may be right. First of all, I think our hearts must go out to the families that have lost children and parents and wives and all that. Then as we do that, we want to remember again that this is just an addition to the statistics of what has been going on over more than 10, 12 years. It's just increasing. So if you ask me, at this point in time, if we want to look at the Abuja-Kaduna incidents, we need to adopt the policy of tragic optimism. I've mentioned this before in a prior interview, that this should be our policy right now in Nigeria. Tragic optimism, they say, is just a search for meaning when the inevitable tragedies of life show up. And what tragic optimism does is that it doesn't allow us to be so covered with sorrow that we are useless. And it doesn't allow us, again, on the other hand, to go to the other extreme, which is to start, talking positively without any reason behind. Tragic optimism allows us at a time like this as a nation to look at the pain that we are going through and use it as an opportunity to bring forth a testimony through that. It allows us to look at the fact that a lot of guilt, people are introspecting all over the whole place. And out of this guilt, we should be able to improve as a nation. And finally, when you look at the wanton loss of lives, indiscriminate way, which is just symptomatic of the war form that is attacking us, we would also agree that this might just be an opportunity for us to become decisive enough to take the actions that we refuse to take all along. So if you ask me, the tragedy is just symptomatic. It's like a medical doctor, we've told you before, we are entering the final phases of what has come against Nigeria. And the best way we can move forward from this, if we assess it and take up tragic optimism, what I'm going to tell you now is this. We need to take decisive actions now. And I will tell you what will help us to make those decisive actions if Nigeria is to win this war. Right now, we are at 51-49. You know, right now, before we had better chances, but the chances are dwindling as the time frame is reducing. So what should we do? I think what we need to do in Nigeria right now, looking at the security architecture, the country itself, and everybody involved, is what they call the mathematization of reality. That is, we need to mathematize our inquiries. We need to dispassionately, at this point in time right now, devoid of emotions. We need to look at the trajectory of this hydra that has been attacking Nigeria. We need to dispassionately, with digital accuracy, as it were, look at facts and figures so that we will not be confused. Now, what will this lead us to that can help us at a time like this, you know, in Nigeria? One, we've said this for more than 10, 15 years, that any person who is a professional in this field, who understands this new warfare, knows that we are dealing with a hydra, a shape-shifting hydra, a hydra that, you know, makes use of terror in a clinical way to break the will of a nation so that a minority can impose its will on a majority. We are dealing with a hydra that wears religion as a cloak. So that hydra is what has struck again. It is very intelligent. It is purposive. Now, why is Kaduna State the one that is undergoing all these things? If we are going to be very true to ourselves and we intend to win this, we need to find the courage and the boldness. Let's take a case study of what's going on in Kaduna State right now. I think there are a few people who need to be declared as persons of interest. We know it has been proven all over the world that this hydra is opportunistic. It uses moles. It uses penetration within the structure of governance, the political structure. It's a hydra to collapse the host nation from within. And what we are meant to do is that, listen, I've listened to a lot of people talking. There's nothing wrong with Nigeria's armed forces. There's nothing wrong with our security professionals. They are very good. There's nothing wrong with our people, even though we may have the challenges of corruption and all that. What we're facing here that can be isolated based on what happened in Kaduna, the Abuja-Kaduna incident, is that we are actually dealing with moles in high places. What we're saying now is that somebody somewhere, a gang of people somewhere, are frustrating all the efforts of the president. They are frustrating all the efforts of the country. And we need to be decisive this time around to use this opportunity to insist on inquiry. Now, when I talk about persons of interest, I'll give you an example. Now, it doesn't mean that these persons are guilty. It doesn't mean that all of them are moles who are cooperating. Some, unwittingly and unknowingly, maybe even doing things that are assisting this war form, asymmetrical war and hybrid threats, assisting it to take down the nation. I'll give you an example. There's an individual in Kaduna State, for instance, who should be declared a person of interest. In 2012, he released a tweet for the whole public and who was to see. In 2016, he made a comment. Not only a comment, he openly confessed that he had been in touch with some of the terrorists, all that, in terms of pacification and so on and so forth. And then again in 2019, was it 2019 February, on a live program on a national network in Nigeria, he made many comments that were unguarded. Now, why should such persons be declared as POIs? As a person of interest, especially for a person of the kind of caliber of position that he has, opportunistic nature of this threat will seize that opportunity to escalate. Now, let's not forget something again. A while ago, the government told us that based on something that information coming from the UAE, that there were at least 96 financiers of terrorism in Nigeria. Now, we did hear that they were going to be prosecuted. We heard that their names were going to be, made public. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that came out is that one of the greatest financiers of terror lives in Kaduna State, has lived in Kaduna State, has operated from there. So we need to understand that there must be something creating a very friendly atmosphere for operations within Kaduna State. And anybody who knows Nigeria's history will know that Kaduna State in Nigeria is the timepiece of Nigeria. Whichever way Kaduna goes, right from the days of God, whichever way Kaduna goes is the way Nigeria is going to go.
Just one thing, Pastor Thompson. I'd like you to follow up on something Comrade Ario said earlier about the fact that there have been attacks on some military infrastructure such as the NDA, and so far it would seem like nothing has been done, no follow-up. It would seem, according to, as far as he is concerned, no one has been called to question on that one. Is that a sign of weakness or of vulnerability playing out in our faces?
Not necessarily. I'll tell you why. The thing about terrorism is that it's a very, very insidious war form. Insidious because you have an enemy that really doesn't have a uniform, doesn't have any standard barracks, an enemy that has no rules of engagement. And when you face that kind of enemy, your thinking has to change. So oftentimes, if your thinking does not change to match, the African proverb says when the drum beat changes, your dance pattern must change. Now, you will discover that Nigeria's responses have been changing, but the changes have been too slow. And that alone can give us the pointer that the major problem really is not incompetence. The major problem is infiltration. All hands, if you concatenate right now and put together everything that has been going on, it doesn't point to incompetence. It doesn't, let's not deceive ourselves. Nigeria's got professionals that are very efficient. So the point really is that there is a fifth columnist. There's something disabling the effort of the government from inside the government.
Is this unknown to government?
Well, that again would be a question that would be better responded to by a representation from governance.
Okay, let's leave it. Let's leave that at that for now. Well, comrade, there are those who, I don't know. First of all, do you want to say a thing or two about what you've heard Pastor Thompson say? Because there are those who also say, whatever you want to say in response to what he said. There are those who are, also looking at the failure of intelligence as a factor of, this occurrence back to back, almost over and over again.
Well, for every game plan, security game plan, strategy or architecture, the base is intelligence gathering. Is the foundation on which whatever you may intend to do, either to forestall or to counter or to stop any insurgency at any time. The question is, this year alone, the army got over 57 billion, is it billion naira or so? Okay, and consistently like that since 2019, it's been getting so much fund, a little bit of it which goes into capital and the bulk goes to recurrent. Now, if we say funding, they cannot come and claim that they are not properly funded, because intelligence gathering requires funding. I'm not going to deny that. But we have hammered on this point over and over. So for me, it's we can begin to think and say, is the government complicit? Otherwise, some people should have had their day in court for dereliction of duty. But it's the same song we are singing every now this thing happens. And you know, it's so bad that each time the president comes to speak, I see it as giving us what I call pro forma invoice. You know, without a naira in your pocket, you can walk into a place where they sell Rolls Royce, pretend you want to buy. They will receive you and immediately issue you with an invoice, okay? Hoping that one day you will come back. And you know that you're just collecting that paper for fun. You've only had them for a game. And so, you know, it doesn't carry any weight anymore. The state have been asked to do this, do that, and that. We've had this over and over. And for me, you can't be doing things the same way and expect a different result. Somebody calls that insanity.
Comrade, when the bandits attacked, or terrorists, or whatever you want to call them, they headed for the first-class coach.
They're not illiterates.
Doesn't that tell you something? And that has made some people begin to think that, the chicken has come home to roost.
Right.
The high and mighty are now being attacked. So it could be a minister's turn next time. It could be a governor's turn. So do you think that this will now propel the government to look at this issue more seriously?
Unfortunately,
because
I don't think so.
One or two governors have gone to see these guys and taken pictures with them that went viral. Another governor came out and said they know where these people are, and yet they have not taken the war to them. Do you think these kinds of things are now going to happen because it's becoming too close for comfort?
You see, the narratives that we've been given at one time or the other, they bear common sense. There was a photograph or a video of a governor with Nigerian soldiers visiting bandits.
Yes.
And they were carrying AK-47, ill-dressed, racked